We are back here at the 51st Annual Big New England Football Clinic, and I have the good fortune now to be joined by Columbia head football coach Jon Poppe. Jon, great to see you, man.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being with us, and pretty special season in 2024 for you guys. You know, we were talking before we started the interview, and we were talking about how hard it is to coach in the Ivy League. I really don't think people realize it is truly a special league, and I'm so excited that you guys are going to finally have the opportunity to get to play in the college, in the FCS playoffs, because it's long overdue. But every week's a battle, every single week, because the playing field is so level.
Yeah, and that's what shows you the investment by the athletic administrations, right, in football, in the Ivy League, and that's why you see the product the way it looks. And with all the health and safety stuff that we're able to do, I think parents appreciate how we handle our business. There's less tread on the tire, so to speak. And now you have these grad transfer opportunities, so you're seeing a tremendous amount of talented football players turn down scholarship at the Power 4 or Group of 5 level because the football's great. And now, with the national playoff opportunities, I think we're going to see talent continue to increase here and provide great football.
You know, one of the advantages that I think you guys have in the Ivy League is the fact that you're not dealing with the pool. You're not dealing with guys that are coming and going. You have guys in your program that are talented individuals on the field, but they're talented individuals in the classroom as well. They want to be there. And I think in many ways for you guys, that's an advantage that you don't have to worry about having that structure above you now, like the NFL where you have a general manager or a money guy, if you will. It's all football for you guys. And that I would think is awesome.
It's great not to have to babysit and continue to recruit your own players on top of the future ones.
Yes.
And
that's a key point right there. Keep recruiting your guys to stay.
Yeah, and the parents appreciate the investment, right? We can't, if a guy doesn't turn out to be the level of player we all hope he would be, right? As he himself or us, we're still investing in him for his 40-year future. And the parents appreciate that, and we can't go shop the pool. We can't tell that guy to transfer. Because if we do and he leaves, we still lose his spot. He's on our books still for 4 years. There's no replacement. There's no trading. And so with the Ivy League, he's ours, regardless, for 4 years, and that's why whether he's a factor on Saturday or not, we're going to make sure he has a lifelong journey that's successful because of investing in our program.
You know, obviously, you guys had I don't know if it's strong to say a historic season, but an unbelievable season. You kind of came out of nowhere. That's the thing, right? Because going into the season, you know how it works in the Ivy League. It's usually Harvard at the top, Yale, Dartmouth has been really good the last few years, Princeton. Those are usually, if you want to call them your blue bloods in the league, those are typically the teams that are usually vying for the top 4 spots. What would you attribute as a first-year coach? What would you attribute was the key to your success? How were you able to get those guys to buy in and win a share of the Ivy League title?
Combination of things, right? We had a lot of senior leadership. We had a lot of guys returning that played football. Now, you say they played football for 3-17, but when you watch the tape, you know there's talent there, and there's going to be an opportunity to win games if maybe we just clean up the fundamentals a little more, pay attention to those minor details that seem to slip as the game went on, right? And creating more strain in practice. That's something that we talked about at length before we even started anything, is what do we need to do to grow the team in the eyes of the players? And then as coaches, as we're watching the film, okay, this is what we want to see. And only having to develop one half of it all, meaning Coach Stovall, defense coordinator, State. We played great defense. We'd worked together in 2015, 16, and 17. So there's some continuity that exists.
Which is huge.
And creating confidence with the players. And so, and the offensive staff led by Coach Saitu Smith, who's been a staple in the Ivy League, right? Was a great player at Harvard, worked at Dartmouth, worked at Brown, was 2 years at Yale for 2 Ivy League championships, and bringing that kind of pedigree created instant confidence for the offense that, you know, had sputtered in recent years. And putting those guys in position and being able to run the football effectively, and that's what kind of was a huge key to us and having a successful season.
You know, and obviously when you look at the Ivy League, every year, you could say this about any level of football, every year it's its own year. But the thing with the Ivy League is, because so much of your success is tethered to your seniors and their experience, carryover can be tough. Even if you're a sustained program like a Harvard, Yale, carryover can be tough. How do you carry over last year's success to 2025? What do you need to do this spring with spring ball starting to build on what you did last year?
There's a hunger, you know, that exists because the fortunate thing for us, we lost some games that we very well could have won. Right? If we just make this decision or that decision. So there's a immediate hunger, and they've tasted this level of success, but also have disappointment. they have some regrets. And that's key, I think, to fuel anything. And for us, we got on the championship gear. They can't wear it in the building. They're not allowed. That's right. So we're setting that precedent as well, that's last year. And you can wear that in your downtime. You can wear that when you exit our program. But right now, we're focused on this year. And we changed some things with our monikers with each team to kind of create a new identity. And so now, as coaches, we can talk about this team in a specific way that has nothing to do with the previous team. And so it is that mindset shift, but it's daily reinforcement of that mindset shift.
Obviously, when you look at, going into the spring, you look at who you lost. How comfortable are you with where the program is right now from a depth standpoint, where you have guys in the program right now that you and your staff feel can step up and fill some of those voids?
Yeah, I think going last season, we were excited about the frontline guys, and we weren't sure what we had behind them. And so our level of investment in the backups, great job by our position coaches, especially our offensive line coach, Greg Skold. We lost our left tackle versus Penn. We lost our starting center versus Yale. We played 3 different centers. Right? We played 9 different offensive linemen in not just 10 snaps, like 50 snaps a game. And so that is a testament to those guys and how they teach, how they work, and even our mindset as a program with the players and how they approach their business. Knowing I'm not the guy yet, but I could be. And, as we build that, that's really been, I think, a fortunate thing for me as the head coach. I don't have to worry about the buy-in of these guys that maybe don't see themselves as starters yet because they saw what happened last year when adversity struck the starter. And, hey, my time to call, I better be ready because these coaches won't hesitate to play me.
Obviously, big news this offseason, of course, is the Ivy League is finally going to get an opportunity for the first time, I believe, since the 1940s, to play in the FCS playoffs. How does that change, as a head coach, how does that change the dynamics of the way now you run the program, the way you recruit? How much does that help you in recruiting, knowing that there's something more at stake now than just winning the Ivy League? Not that wasn't a big deal, because I know how important it is to the schools, but now you can play for more. How much does that change the dynamic of how you approach things, both in recruiting and managing your team?
Yeah, I think recruiting, you are talking now on a national scale. You're not talking about national recruiting, national representation of your roster. You're talking about national competition.
Yeah.
And you couldn't talk about that before. So that naturally, with our rosters, you look across the island, California, Texas, Washington, Washington.
People have no idea.
And now these families are, I might be able to see my son play multiple times, not just on ESPN Plus, but for ESPN. I get to see him in person potentially if we win some games in the playoffs. So that's been tremendous. And I think intra-program, it's going to be interesting, right? Ivy League rules. You only kick off, there's just one thing in particular that stands out to me. We kick off from the 40-yard line. When we play out of conference, we kick off from the 35. So now you hit this Ivy League swing, right? Weeks 6 through 10, you're kicking off from the 40. And now you start to see, I might have a shot to win this Ivy League title. Well, how do you handle this kickoff and KOR thing now again? How do you reintroduce that 35-yard line? Right? Your kicker's legs are a little tired, right? We're in the Northeast, the wind's a factor, just like it is in the Midwest. And so I think that's a key component to a football we're not necessarily accustomed to yet, or truly at the end of the season. So I think that's going to be an adjustment for coaching staffs as you put yourself in a position, your team puts yourself in a position to vie for that playoff spot.
Yeah, and again, when you become a head coach, these are the things you think about, right? These are the things that keep you up at night. But obviously, it is a game changer for the league and in terms of recruiting. And speaking of recruiting, you guys are obviously on the doorstep of New England. How much is New England a part of your recruiting efforts? And is it a focal point? I mean, you got a 6-state region here. The talent speaks for itself. We've seen a lot of high-end talent come out of here in recent years. How much of a focal point is it for you guys being a New York program?
Yeah, it's within 3 hours, right? And as we see with New York City, some guys want to get away from home. They always want to go 20 minutes down the road. They want to get away from mom and dad and have a true experience to grow and create their own path, so to speak. And so we are focused, especially on prep school talent, not just excluding public school, but all the prep schools. You have Exeter, you have Andover, right? You got Milton Academy, BB&N. Like, they're Power 4 guys every single year coming from this program, so you have to pay attention to it. You have to invest in it. One of our best offensive linemen this year was a Mass guy, and he's going to the grad transfer in Central Michigan. He's going to be the starter there, already at left guard. So, yeah, we're going to invest in Massachusetts because it's a great level of football, and even Rhode Island, so to speak, and Connecticut, which depending where you're from, where you included in New England or Tri-State, right?
It is. It's an amazing dynamic because if you're in Fairfield County, that area, you consider yourself New York. Everywhere else, you're New England. So it is an interesting dynamic. Schedule-wise, anything that we need to know about from a schedule standpoint in terms of any changes and playing different opponents this year as compared to last year? Where are you guys at with that?
Yep, we're actually we're going to attack the new defending Patriot League champions of Lehigh. So we have Lehigh and Lafayette on the schedule, and they're obviously great programs, a great team. Both coaches have done a great job, and Coach Trox and Coach Cahill. And so we're excited to add that kind of caliber, add a conference opponent with Georgetown as well. Coach Carolina, had a very, very good year in my opinion, even though they had some injuries. Like they were on track, and they beat us. So obviously there's a revenge taste in our mouth, and that prepares you, I think, for the Ivy League schedule. Knowing that, here we go, we're going to battle every week now. There's no coast game, so our guys have that mindset of truly week to week, we're going to be on our A game.
You talked about guys not being able to wear the gear around the facility. You're on to 2025, spring ball. So talk a little bit about that, spring ball, and how do you use that now as the impetus to say we're officially on to 2025? That's our focus. Whatever happened last year, that's last year.
Yeah, I think there's an adjustment in scheme which helps. Okay, we didn't run this last year. Hey, we're tinkering with this from last year to make this more improved, more effective.
This is what coaches do in the winter, by the way. They sit around and it's who gets the dry erase marker.
Exactly.
It's usually the coordinators or the head coach.
I think we're just growing the depth, right? You have 20 or so first years that didn't see the field more or less in a major role, so we got to grow them and get their confidence up to when the light's shining, how you're going to perform, and putting them in those kind of stressful situations, those situations that are adverse, and get them ready to play and perform, because we need them to step up now. So that's really a key to the spring, in my opinion, is just developing those first years through the winter and now the spring to take giant leaps where we can rely on them to play championship football.
And before we wrap up here, Coach Poppe, any key dates that people out there need to know about, both in terms of recruiting, camps, clinics, any of that information you want to share with our community?
I think the biggest thing with me for camps, if you're a rising 2026, maximize your effort. Maximize your exposure. Don't be singular Ivy League camps. We're not looking for 2026 at our camps. We're looking for the 2027s, the 2028s to grow the game and grow relationships and get people to our campus at an earlier stage. We're looking for the 2026 to be at the BC Day, right? And now you're going to compete with all 8 Ivy League schools there. And now you're not tipping into your pocket $175 for some of these Ivy League camps, which is crazy, right? Well, I mean, we're probably $150 just because of prices in the city. I think that's kind of crazy. So maximize your exposure, do the best you can in that environment, and make sure you alert coaches that you're going to be there. That's sometimes a problem with communication. It's, hey, if I'm going to be at this camp, and I know this coach has talked to me, I'm going to make sure he knows I'm there. Make sure you reach out as a young man.
All right, Coach Poppe, I want to say thank you for taking the time, brother. It's great to meet you, and can't wait to see what is in store for year 2 for you and the Columbia football.
Awesome. Thanks for the time. Really appreciate it.
All right, that is Jon Poppe at Football.